Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And as always, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to speak to you through this venue. Hey, thanks for all the support and all those who are subscribing, and a special welcome to those who may be tuning in for the very first time. I hope you stay here. I hope that this site somehow gleans something into your life, whether it be just information or even something greater than that. Hey, today is just going to be a follow-up of the overview I just recently did on the 2020 Mirage 360 Pro Angler 14. I'm just going to go through some of the ways I'm going to rig it and some of the products that I'm going to use to do so. I'm going to go through it line by line, item by item, so that you get a good idea of the reasons why I chose these particular items maybe as opposed to other brands out there. This by no means is a video to exclude any of them. This is just how I see how it's the best fit for me. So hey, thanks again for subscribing, and if you haven't yet, please hit that button, and here's the video. Enjoy. All right, so I'd like to take a moment and just go through some of the features that I'm going to be adding to this Mirage 360. And I've put a lot of research in this, and by no means is anything that I suggest or anything that I use is promoting any one of these companies. I've just done a lot of my own research and fitted the outcome of that research to what best fits my needs. So I'm just going to go over some of these things for you. Maybe it's helpful to you if you're doing or looking for similar things. So I want to start with just saying, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out, and I don't normally do this, but I feel it necessary that when we're led by the Spirit to just proclaim certain things in our life, and I can't help but recognize these people for the effort that they did and how helpful they were for me. And that's Aris and his crew at Mariner Sales up in Dallas, Texas. They were stellar. This is a place where not only are you going to get great customer service, they care about you. They care about making sure that you're comfortable with the purchase you're making, and you're comfortable with what you're buying and how it's going to be applied to you. And above all, it's like they've got anything and everything you could ever imagine as it pertains to kayaking. And they also outfit sailboats. It's an amazing company, amazing people. So I just want to give a shout out to them and just tell them thank you so very much for helping me and helping our ministry get moving and help to just move the gospel forward. So let's start with power. Power is one of those things that we debate about. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I've gone on the cheap. I'm a DIY kind of guy, and I really like to craft with my hands, and I like to make things. I've made my own crates, and I've made my own posts, and you name it. I'm a battery box. You know, you watch a plethora of YouTube videos, and you get some brilliant insight into some things that you really can create. And I like doing that. But there's just some things that you just can't cut corners on, especially if what you're doing is dependent on those things holding up and those things performing at a high level. And one of those things is power. Power, I've debated over. I used to use the deer feeder batteries. Who doesn't? The lead acid batteries, they're heavy and they don't charge very well, and they don't last very long. And when you start accumulating the cost of these things over, say, like a tournament season, you find yourself, you've been into it already for a couple $100s. Well, for a couple $100s, there's some great solutions. There's some great alternatives to these reoccurring issues you have with some of that stuff that is on the cheaper end beginning. So power, I researched, and there's a lot of good lithium battery companies out there. This is not to say there's one greater than the other. Again, this one suits my needs better than some of those others. And one of them is the FPV Power System. FPV has a unique way of bringing their lithium battery and their power system together in a way that keeps it functional, operating at a high level, but also does some other things that other companies just aren't doing right now. And one of them is being waterproof. Now, we're on the water, folks, and there's going to be times where things are going to get wet. It's just the nature of doing business. So it's really important that you keep your products dry and you keep these systems dry, because that's the only way they're going to operate for you the way you need them to. So I decided to go with the FPV Power System. First, let's just start with the batteries. These batteries are lithium ion batteries. This is a 12 volt, 17.5 amp hour battery. Now, they claim to get 1,000 charges out of one of these. 1,000 charges. And when you think about that, okay, 1,000 charges doesn't seem like a whole lot. Maybe it does. And so I broke it down, and I broke it into how many times a week maybe I fish. Maybe I fish 2, maybe I fish 2, 3 times a week. Maybe you do the same. Maybe you only go out once or twice a month. Now, that 1,000 charges is relative to a full charge, meaning you've drawn the battery completely down and you've had to charge it completely back up. So if it's a half charge, it doesn't really count as a full charge to one of those 1,000 bank that you may have. It may be a partial one. So if you look at a full charge 1,000 times and you fish 2 to 3 times a week, that's 100 times a year, right? Now let me tell you something, if you're fishing 100 times a year, you're doing it right. If you're fishing a third of the time, praise God, y'all are doing it right. But anyway, 1,000 times, 100 a year, that's 10 years, folks, and some of the most extreme comparisons. I mean, think about it. 10 years, who expects a battery to last 10 years? And FPV is basically saying you're going to get 1,000 charges. It's hard to beat, especially when it's encased in these waterproof cases, and all of their connections are plug and play. They're waterproof, they're tight fitting, and they're all just, they sync together in a way that I believe is just a little bit special, a little bit of cut above of some of my other options. So I got 2 batteries at 17.5 amp hours meshed together. That's 35 amp hours on the water. You might think that's a little high, and for some of you that may be a little high. For me, it's a necessity because I'll explain later, but I'm going to run some high-powered electronics on this vessel, along with some other electronic features that are just going to be a draw on my batteries. In addition to the batteries, though, I also got this FPV Power 5 amp 12 volt regulator. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a regulator. And what a regulator does is, let's use your house as an example. The 120 that's coming to your outlets in your house is not clean power. It's not 120 true watts. What you're getting is, or volts rather, what you're getting is spiked electricity in your house. Sometimes it may be a little less, sometimes it may be a little more, but it's not consistent power and it's not clean power. A lot of people who have high-end electronics in their entertainment centers, they go out and they buy these regulators, or they buy these power strips that have built-in regulators that actually boost the power coming from the outlet and clean it up to make it stable. That's what your regulator is going to do for this system. Why is that important? When you're running some of your high-end graphs, when you're running stuff that's got down imaging and side imaging, and it has maybe live scan capabilities, and they're big screens, and you're running all of this capacity in this draw, you want that power to be clean. As a matter of fact, my unit, and I'll explain later, it draws and it needs a certain amount of voltage to run efficiently and to be able to produce what it claims it can do for you. So it's essential that you have a regulator if you're going to run high-end electronics, so that you are bringing the power to those devices at its optimal. The next part is probably the brain. It's the key part. And I haven't opened any of this stuff up yet. I just want to give you the first look at it. It's the FPV Power Distribution Hub. Now this is compared to Yak Power System and things, other brands out there. But what's unique about this is that every one of these ports is pre-fused. Every one of these are inline fuses. You can change the fuses to suit whatever amperage you need. And again, it's plug and play, and it's all waterproof. So this was a really no-brainer for me. Now, I will tell you there's some features on here that I would have preferred been a little bit different in comparison to maybe another brand. There is no default selector switch on this, all right? It is powered by a remote control, which is fine. But in the event, say you leave your remote behind, or your remote just dies, there is no way to power this on. There is no way to bypass manually to be able to operate. So what I did, and here it is right here in this bucket, is I went ahead and bought an extra remote. I don't know, I'll probably tie this one onto my life jacket, because I never go out without my life jacket, and I recommend that no one does. It's not a matter of if you'll end up in the water, it's just a matter of when, folks. So just be safe out there. Do what you need to do safely, because there's a lot of equipment out there that'll suit your needs. You'll be comfortable in it, but on top of everything, you get to go home to your family at the end of the day. So protect yourselves, be safe. So I'll probably attach this one to an inside pocket or whatnot in my life jacket, so I always have it, and I haven't decided where I'll put the other one yet, but I got another one just in case, because I don't want to be left without power. It's essential, and for the price, it's really non-negotiable. It's negligible. I think this thing was like 14 bucks. So it's really, for the peace of mind, not having that additional manual feature, it was a no-brainer for me. All right, so moving right along, I am mixing some brands together. I'm going to use these Yak Power button lights for my Nav Lights and my 360. I've got red for the port side, I've got green for the starboard side, and I've got clear, and I'm just going to accent the inside of my hole with some ambient, some LED light over ambient light. So if I'm fishing at night or in low light conditions, I'll have a little bit more visibility inside the vessel. Now, I will give you this tidbit of information. I hope this helps some of you. Red and green's not necessary on a pedal-driven or an oar-paddled vessel in the state of Texas. Okay, I don't know about other states, but in the state of Texas, you're not required to have nav lights outside of the 360-degree all-around white light that you have to have, regardless of who you are, between the hours of sunset and sunrise. So that's not necessary. Under one condition, though. If you ever add power, and it doesn't have to be gasoline, it can be electric. If you ever add power to your vessel in the state of Texas, you now have to have nav lights. You now have to follow the Coast Guard rules and regulations, which state that you must have red on the port side, green on the starboard side, you must have your 360 light, and you must register that vessel with the state of Texas because it is now considered motorized. So keep that in mind. I mean, I see a lot of people out there, they've got trolling motors, they got some of these ones that are built for these vessels, and they just don't have any numbers on them, and that's fine. Do what you want to do. I'm just telling you, I'm just trying to help you out, that those things are required. So I went ahead and went with the red and the green in the event that I ever do add something, that I just stay within the parameters of the law. I just don't want to get, last thing I want on a tournament day is get hemmed up by a state game warden and be told I got to get off the water for the day. I don't want to do that. So I recommend you look into that yourself. Anchor trolley. Now, there's a lot of options out there with the anchor trolley. But as I pointed out in a previous video, this thing's already retrofitted with brass fittings that are threaded for an anchor trolley. The caveat to that, though, is you must use the Hobie anchor trolley system, which when you start splitting hairs, the difference in price, this is a little bit more expensive, but for the convenience of just plug and play, screw it in and go on down the road, it was really a no-brainer for me. I just went ahead on and went with it. So I'm going to do the anchor trolley. I also have this FPV Shaft Mount that will hook onto the mast that's underneath this bow hatch, and this clips on to the mast itself, and this will actually hold this power system and the hub, and will mesh against there, and I'll be able to keep everything clean. I'll keep it dry and things of that nature. I've seen some really clever DIY uses for this, and I planned on doing one of those just because, again, I like to do those things myself. But here's what I want to tell you. Some things are just worth the convenience. Some things are worth a little extra money to get the convenience, because you know what, this is already set up. I'm already ready to go with it, and for the money, it was really just, again, a no-brainer. To house these batteries is brilliant how FPV and Hobie, they work together. And along with Mariner Sales in Dallas, they put their heads together, they combine their thoughts and their innovations together to come up with the best solutions for the angler and for the boater. And one of them is this round piece, this Hobie battery mount. And what you do is you mount these FPV batteries to the bottom of this round mount, holds two of them, and back there in the back where we have the access hatch, this just sits right down in there. Look, no more removing boxes, y'all. And another thing I forgot to mention, that each one of these batteries comes with a charger. It comes with the charger. So all you've got to do is take the pigtail Y connector off of this, Hook up 2 chargers at one time. You're no more getting up in the middle of the night switching batteries. No more having to keep multiple batteries charging at varying intervals so that you can keep full power when you need to fish for a 2 or 3 day tournament. So you just plug in each one of these batteries, these chargers, and you go on down the road. And I like that you can just leave it all in there and set it up. And I'm really pleased and excited about that. So that's a must. And then you've got the Burley Pro. This is a Transducer Protector, all right, and this is specifically for the Guardian transducer mount that comes on a previous model in 2019, but also the 2020 model, PAs, and I believe the Outbacks too, where the transducer mount on the hull of the vessel is retractable. So no longer are you concerned about running into things or dragging your vessel on, say, a shell shawl or rocks and timber or even grass for the matter, or pulling it up the ramp at the end of the day. Your transducer dragging on those things. This will protect it in addition to the patented retractable mount that it has, that Guardian mount. So this, you'll bump into something and it'll just kind of rock with the flow and it's going to be covered. Because we all know on those high-end electronics, those transducers are not cheap, y'all. Those transducers are expensive and you just don't want to have to go out and replace those when you have an alternative to protect it for pennies on the dollar. In addition to that, I got this Burley Pro visor for my graph. Now I guess I'll tell you that I run, this is my first year going to run Garmin. I've traditionally been a Lowrance fisherman for a lot of years, and there's nothing wrong with Lowrance whatsoever. There's some features I believe on each one of the top competitive brands that I think are a little bit better than each one of them. But again, it's all about what you need. It's all about your application and what fits you the best. And I'm going with Garmin this year because I've liked how Garmin has really set the stage and they set the precedence for the next generation of graphs. This is the EchoMap 74SV Plus. This has a down scan, side scan capability. It has a chart plotter. It's all touch screen. This is like amazing graph, and the clarity and the graphics in your display is just like second to none. But what's really cool about this thing is it already comes ready to go with Panoptix live scope. That does require some additional equipment, but you have live scope Panoptix capability, and you can have that in your kayak. So I got the visor for my graph so that I'm able to see in detail a little bit better the things that I'm looking at on the water. In this bucket, I've just got some random things. Again, I've got the chargers for each one of these batteries. I got this spare remote. You might have to get some additional wiring for some of the way that you want to set up your particular setup for your electronics and for your wiring, your lights and whatnot. But outside of that, I'm changing over the tackle system. I think this is great, I really do, but this is going to be a little bit more suited for me to have a bucket in there so that I can put random things in there as a storage instead of tackle, because one of the DIY projects I am going to do, and maybe I'll share the build of that with you at a later date. I did it initially from plenty of YouTube videos that I saw where they made them out of milk crates, and took time to do some modifications for myself and built off of what's already been done. Just, again, brilliant people with some really talented skills. You got to hand it to these people on YouTube. I mean, YouTube's really opened up a venue for people to be able to showcase their talents and their gifts. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use a little bit different crate. I'm going to use a milk crate, but I'm not going to use a standard like 12 by 12 crate. I'm actually going to use a 19-inch crate. There's enough girth back here in the stern of this vessel, back here in this recessed area, that I can actually hold a wider crate. And you know, I've considered all the other options: black pack, the H crate with the integrated rail system. All that stuff's good, y'all. None of what I'm saying is to take away from any of that. That's all good stuff. But the difference for me is one, I like to do those things, but two, I'm tailor making it to my needs. I'm gonna be able to house my anchor in there. I've got it modified on a line that will go with my trolley and all of those things. And it's wider. When I'm done with it, it'll be larger than those, but be just about the same in weight. So I'm looking forward to that build. A couple other things that aren't present today that will be present in the future. Again, I'll share those with you when I get those, is I am going to put a power pole, micro pole on here at a later date. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to use the traditional cart or dolly, or if I'm just going to go with the Boondocks landing gear system. I was committed to the Boondocks landing gear system prior to going and picking this up yesterday, but after listening to the professionals give me other things to think about, I took a step back and I want to weigh those things again. I want to make sure that what I do and my application will honor my investment in my boat, okay? These are not cheap, y'all. This boat is not cheap by any means. And the last thing I want to do is avoid a warranty or break it because of convenience. But again, if it's the right fit and it can be done and I run very minimal risk, I still may go with that system. But right now I'm up in arms about which direction to go. And I need to figure that out pretty quick because I can't really put this thing in the water until I do. So anyway, I appreciate you tuning in again today. And again, as always, I'm so thankful that you tuned in. And again, our ministry is more about God and bringing our faith and our fishing together. And Fish Factor, I believe, is something that's going to be instrumental in your life if you give it a chance. But we will do product reviews, and we're going to do unboxings from time to time because I want to get truthful information out to you, uncensored, truthful information out to you so that you can make the best choice, that you have the best information to make that choice. And so we'll do those. We'll do Q&A. I would like to take some of the comments that you leave below, and I want to answer those, whether it be about practical things, whether it be about fishing things, or whether it be about faith things. I want to take a couple of those that I get from time to time and address those things in future videos to answer some of your questions. But I thank you again. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. If you like this channel, hit the like button, leave those comments, and we'll be talking to you in the future. Be blessed in all your endeavors, and I pray that you stay safe on the water. Until then, God bless you.